Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Kamu and welcome to another video today with gameplay of our Skellige deck because many of you guys requested it. And this is a deck, it's again revolves around the Morkvarg and the Olgierd, and the general strategy is to buff them and to have a huge carryover into round 2 and into round 3. So that's the basic strategy. So let's now join the first game. I recorded three of them. And the first one is against Nilfgaard, and if we come to the mulligan, we want Morkvarg and Olgierd not in our hand, but double cross and leader ability, right? We want to get them through double cross and leader ability, so we don't want them. And in this case, we don't have double cross in our hand, so usually there might be a chance that we actually keep Morkvarg. In this game, I didn't decide to take it, and I took my chances of getting the DC, and I think it was a mistake. But yeah, everybody does mistakes, so these are happening. So now our Nilfgaard enemy is first to act, so we won the coin flip, which is always good. And what it usually has is these huge swing turns, which he can use when he plays his Cultivate, leader power. And usually we have problems with that because we don't have really much the tempo swings in the stack, right? And so we struggle sometimes with that. But again, the general strategy stays the same. We want Morkvarg and Olgierd on the board in round 1 as fast as possible and just buff them. The rest is pretty much standard. So for example, in this case I played the Brockva Hunter just to set up the Shield Maidens, because the Shield Maidens you also usually want to play in round 1 because they cycle and they are actually the only tempo play that you can do. So I decided to play them, and he plays the Skellige Storm, which we of course clear with the clear skies because Skellige Storm will do a lot of damage, and we plan on playing a long round, or at least we want to play the leader power to get the Morkvarg out there. And now our opponent is just hitting our board, as he is actually not supposed to do, but we realize that he plays Reveal Nilfgaard, and it doesn't really change the strategy. The strategy still stays the same. We want the Morkvarg and the Olgierd and want to buff them. Unfortunately, in this game, we don't get the Olgierd, but at least we get the Morkvarg, which is actually fine. Not the best option, but fine. Also, in this case, I could have played the Gremist with the, creating a bear, which would have been pretty much a strong play. So, but what I thought was that and maybe he clears it, and then I can play Ragnaros, for example. Or maybe I just get off the fog, and then it's basically stronger because it's 14. It's more than 14 strength if I can clear the first row. And actually, I thought I could clear it. So that was, I think, a fine decision. Right now, our opponent played Ragnaros, which is unfortunate because we cannot clear it anymore. But there's no reason to pass, right? There is no reason to pass because, as I said, it's a very high priority to play the leader power in round 1. And very often I see people, they really are afraid of Ragnaros, and as soon as they see Ragnaros, they plan on passing the round if they cannot clear it. And I think this shouldn't be always the case, because if you only stack one row, and that's what we basically do when we see Ragnarok, it only does 3 damage every turn. And if we even play Brockva Hunters and we place them next to each other, they don't even, Ragnarok doesn't even do 3 damage. It basically only does 2 damage, which is like your opponent having 2 trebuchets. And of course, that's not very good for us. But it's totally fine, and we shouldn't do something that we would regret, which is passing too early. So in this case, we actually somehow could have passed now because there's really no way that we will play the Freya, and there's no way we would play the Cleaver, and so we shouldn't play a gold card, because if we play the gold card and we are yet already behind in stats, he could play just a bronze card and get ahead. That's what he actually should do now. He should play the 6th ranked bronze card. I think it's pretty clear, because he will always stay ahead, right? And we always, even if we play powerhouses like Coral. And I think in this case, playing the Coral was actually a mistake. Also, playing the Ka here in this spot is definitely a mistake, because there's no reason to play a strong golden card when you can just go ahead and play a bronze card and effectively do the same thing. Probably he just wanted to make sure he really wins the round now. I don't know why, but well, that was his decision. So we get the carryover of 8 stats. That's not the best. I think there are better options, but unfortunately he doesn't have Augs, and that's really the problem against Nilfgaard. If Nilfgaard plays Augs, he can usually toggle the lock on, or just lock the Morkvarg and the Olgierd, which is bad for us. That's why we actually have to try to get Siegfrieda and the Cleaver into our hand, because we have to have them against Nilfgaard, because we have to toggle the lock if they lock it. Fortunately, he doesn't have lock, and unfortunately we don't have Siegfrieda Cleaver, but actually we did have Cleaver, and now we are able to get rid of it, because it's a weak card if our opponent doesn't play Augs, or if he doesn't have Augs. So now this play is, I think, pretty straightforward. Of course he should have hit the Morkvarg, but I think our play is straightforward. We just try to win the round. And of course we have to back the Morkvarg. And if we win the round, we probably win the war, because we have this huge carryover, and he doesn't have any carryover at all. So we buff the Morkvarg, and we pass and win the round by 6 stats, which is fine. Remember, 6 stats it's not close. It's very often people think it's close, but actually it's not. So now this is the second game. The second game is against monsters. Same thing applies here. We want the DC, so the double cross, to get the Morkvarg out, or the Olgierd, and we want the leader to get the other guy out. And now again we don't have double cross, which is really unfortunate. But this time we don't do a mistake and gamble on getting it, but we just keep the Morkvarg. And now we can get the Olgierd out with the leader power and just play the Morkvarg from hand. But against monsters, I don't like playing Morkvarg from hand as the first card to play. And the reason is because many people, they just play Biting Frost and Imlerite. And if they play Biting Frost and we play Morkvarg, then he can just Imlerite it and kill it. And this is not very good. It's actually pretty bad. And that's why we try to get the stats above 8, or at least we don't play an 8 minion into Biting Frost. And yeah, that's what we try to do. But now our opponent is playing Fog and not Biting Frost. But anyways, we can decide whether to play the leader card or whether we want to play the Morkvarg. But the problem with the Morkvarg is that we don't get ahead if we play him, because the Fog will damage it. And in this case, we would win the round with 2 cards behind and losing the wild boar of the sea. So it would be a very, very good pass for him, and we don't want to deliver him a very good pass. That's something that we definitely don't want. That's why we play the leader power. So he is playing the Neckar Warrior, which means that he has probably a lot of fox in his deck, and he wants to summon as many foglets as he possibly can. So here we play the Morkvarg Hunter, which is, I think, a slight mistake, because we definitely should wait for a target that's much better suited, right? We have to get our shield maidens out, and so we usually want a target that has more than 5 stats. So we hit it, it is damaged and has more than, or at least 3 stats. This is not the case here, but I wanted the stats from the damaged unit in the fog. But it was probably a mistake. Usually, this is a 5 stat is not a good target for a Morkvarg Hunter if you plan on getting your shield maidens out. So now our opponent got rid of the Olgierd in the front row and put it in the mid row, and of course we have to play the Morkvarg as soon as possible because we want the ship value. The ship value is really the most important thing we have to look at when it comes to the first round, and if we have the board on the board. So he is thinking right now, and he plays Siri. So now that he plays Siri, our goal is just to always stay ahead. And that's the goal that we have. And that's what we did. And always we try to buff our minions as much as possible. That's what we did by playing the Shieldsmith. And that's actually successful. So now we won the round with 2 cards behind, which is totally fine. I think usually you want to win the round with 1 card behind or better, but if we have such huge carryovers that it really doesn't matter. I mean, we have 18 stats of carryover, which equals around, well, 1.8 bronze cards. And since we are 2 cards ahead, it's actually like if we won with equal cards, which is basically really, really good. And so the plan just stays the same. We want to buff them as much as possible, and that's what we do if we play the Priestess of Freyr. Of course, we lose some stats in this round because we could have used the Morkvarg Hunter, which is a 9 statter right now and does 3 damage, so it's basically 12. But we don't get the carryover, and we don't care so much about the points in this round. I think it's pretty close, actually. I think it's pretty close. Here in this spot, we want to get rid of the fog because we want to play a long round. Right? We want to... If we know that we have huge carryovers, what we want is we want to make round 3 as short as possible. Really as short as possible, because just think about it. If you have, for example, 20 stats that you carry over, and both of you have 20 cards, it wouldn't really matter that much, because you have so many cards that 20 stats, well, you know, sometimes you just lose by 40 or 50 stats, and in these cases 20 stats would be in vain. But if you and your opponent have only a few cards, like for example 3 cards or 2 cards, then the 20 stats actually really matter a lot, because he would need 2 cards, 2 bronze cards to get over that, or a very strong gold card, something like that. So he's trying to get ahead in stats, but we just play our bronze card, right? I mean, the potion is really good. It's a 12 stat for bronze card, and right now we have 3 minions on board in 1 row. We don't really know if we can pull that off again, and we don't want to put it on the shield maidens because of Igni, or the potential Igni. And so we play it now. Okay, and now our opponent plays Borg, and we instantly pass. Right, we instantly pass, because there's no way that we can play around Borg right now. And we just want to get him to play 2 additional cards, which he has to do now. So he plays one first light, which draws a very good card for him actually. But he still has to play another card. And he plays Theory. Okay, that's fine. And so now we have both 4 cards. I wished we had a little bit fewer, but it's totally fine, right? We have the same amount of cards, but we have a huge carryover. We have a 5 Morkvarg and I believe something like 10 stats of Olgierd, and that's pretty much insane because that equals a golden card. So in this spot we really assume that we would win the game, but I mean he also has carryover, he has 12 stats in carryover, which is also good, but we should be ahead in some stats. Again, it was really unfortunate for us that his first light pulled the Harpy, but what can you do? So actually we have the same amount of points, which is really close. But we have an advantage because we have the Shield Maidens, and the Shield Maidens are really strong in round 3, right? I mean, the Shield Maidens, I think they are the best bronze card in Skellige. They are just insane, because if you play them in round 1, they are 15 stats if they go off, and they thin the deck, and if you play them in round 3, they are 21 in stats. That's much stronger than most of the bronze cards, and most of the golden cards. So that's really good.
What is it?
Of course now we hit the Brokva, because we actually want to set up the maidens, and we also, what we want to do is we don't want to hit any minion nearby the Brokva Hunter, because then it gets buffed. So our opponent played Rain. And we have to decide whether we play the maidens or whether we play the Siegfrieda. And if we play Siegfrieda, we can resurrect the Grammist. And I think actually this would be the best play. But we can also play the Shield Maidens. But yeah, we can also play the Shield Maidens. If we play the Shield Maidens, we have to make sure to get the damage on the back row. We have to make sure to get all the maidens out, but the rest of the damage should be in the back row, because we have Coral in hand. And we want to get Coral value. And that's why we want as many stats as possible in one single row. That's what we achieved now. And now we can resurrect the bear. And the bear and Siegfrieda are 15 stats, which is extremely good. I mean, we have a silver card with 15 stats, and we have a golden card that is much better. And so this should be an easy win, actually. Let's see what he plays as last card. Okay, so he plays Fog, and we play Coral. Okay, so this was the third game against monsters, and let's join the last game. And the last game is against Skellige. It's a mirror matchup, and we expect this, of course, Morkvarg, because everybody else is playing it right now. It's just the best Skellige deck overall, and we just mulligan like the last times. We just want the DC and the leader to get us the Morkvarg and the Olgierd, And since we don't have DC, we should keep the Morkvarg. This time we do it right. And now we, of course, have the Mulligan, the Olgierd, and the Shield Maiden. And we'll lose a Cornflap. Pretty bad. So let's just play the leader. We don't have a ship, so we plan on just passing as soon as possible if he plays a ship. That's the game plan.
You talked enough.
And that's why we play Siri. Because, you know, I literally plan right now that I just pass and give up the first round. And if we don't, or if I win the first round, well, it doesn't really matter, because then in case he has Siri, his Siri is also dead, which is the case in 50% around. Actually, it's more than 50% probably, because everybody plays Siri and it's like 70% almost that he gets it in round 2. So it's fine to play it here.
You've got the heart, not grit.
He plays his leader. And fortunately he places it in the wrong spot, because the Morkvarg Hunter definitely needs to be in the middle, so that if we hit the bear, the Morkvarg Hunter gets buffed. And that's actually what we do, right? Just hit the bear and then get the Shield Maidens out. Actually, we could have just kept this Siri also. It would have been good anyways. Because now it looks like we win the first round. But yeah, I just like in a matchup where everybody has Siri, and you know that your opponent plays Siri and you have it, then I like it playing early.
Have you nothing better to do?
Let's see what he does. And he plays the Grimace. So he sacrifices his bear, which is fine. Like 14 stats for Silver Cup, which is pretty good. But we can deal with it because we have the Shield Maidens. Yeah, and of course we hit the bear and not the Grimace because we plan on maybe playing the Ragnarok. And of course we want 2 targets in this case. Or if he plays the Shield Maidens, we have 3 targets, which is pretty good. Okay, so we win the round. Which is fine. Maybe we shouldn't have played Siri, but probably also passed just because we played Siri. And we won the round with with 1 card behind, which is actually above average, so it's actually good. The real problem is that we didn't play Morkvarg, so this maybe we should have done earlier. So instead of playing Siri, playing the Morkvarg would probably just have been better. But what can you do, right? Everybody does mistakes. Yep. Actually I don't like the Freya so much because, I mean, the problem really is in this matchup that if you have the bear and you deploy it in the most important round, right, in round 3, then your opponent can't play any Freyas anymore, and so this is pretty bad for the other guy. And since we will have to lose the round, and we will probably lose the round, he starts, and so he can resurrect his bear, while we don't have a bear. And so I don't like keeping Freyas. That's also the reason why I don't play 3 of them, because they are so fragile. Because again, if he starts in round 3 because we won round 1, then you cannot deploy your Freyas anymore, and it's pretty bad.
So what? Should I pound it in?
And also what I wanted to achieve is I wanted to get Shieldsmith. Because the Shieldsmith is really good. If you play it in round 2, you don't care about the stats, so even though it's only 8 stats, you carry over the stats in round 3, so I think the Shieldsmith is really a card that you want in round 2. So now he plays the ship, and of course we don't want to play a long round, so... But, so in case, I mean, we can play a long round if he doesn't revive the Morkvarg, and so since we can lock it, there is a chance that we don't pass immediately and just lock it. And so what we do now is that we gamble that he doesn't unlock it. Because if he could unlock it, it wouldn't be so good, but you know, we want to play the cleaver. I mean, we always want to play the cleaver in this spot, because in case he doesn't, the cleaver is just amazing. And we really want to play a longer round because we have still the Shieldsmith in hand, and we have the potion in hand, which is also good if you have 3 minions on board. And we have also Ragnarok, so yeah. But okay. Now I decided I don't want to gamble anymore, and if he has something to unlock, he can't play it anymore, right? Because he would waste the card, which would not be good. But as you can see, we passed as soon as possible, even though we could have played the Shieldsmith. Yeah, I mean, probably he has also Shieldsmith, so I wouldn't make that much difference, but the ship buffing Morkvarg by additional 1. So yeah, now we are 1 card behind, but we are 13 stats ahead. So that's fine. It's like we're almost a golden card ahead, probably a silver card, but he has 1 additional card, which is usually a little bit worse than a silver card. So I think in this spot we are slightly ahead. Only slightly, but...
We serve her who is virgin, mother and crone.
So that's actually... He will probably revive the bear. Yeah, okay. So that's what I mean, right? We cannot... I mean, this is really annoying because we have to remove it. And usually if we have to remove the bear, it's really not good for us because the plays that remove the bear are usually pretty weak. So like the Grimmest for 4 stats now. I mean, plus in the clear skies, which is fine, but yeah. Here I really have to remove it. I have to play Ragnarok. Plus there is a chance that our opponent has used all this removal because he played the first light for the fog. So that was actually pretty good because we baited out the clear skies with the Grimmest. And so if he doesn't have removal, the Ragnarok stays on board for five additional turns, which is insane.
What is it?
Let's see. Okay, so it seems like he cannot clear it. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. Of course we revive the biggest one. And I also like to play the Freya as soon as possible once there is no bear on the board.
Bow before modern Freya.
Okay. He gets the bear. And playing the Ragnarok is so good when you combine it with Coral in round 3, because if they can clear, they will stagger everything in one row. And Coral really loves when everything is in one row, so that's a pretty damn good combo. Yeah, let's see what he plays. And of course, what we want to do is we want to play around Igni in this spot. Because it's everything we can do. We want to play Coral as last as possible. Because, again, everybody is stacking the one single row, usually. I mean, the problem is, actually we should play Coral, because the problem really is that Ragnarok reduces the damage Coral does every turn. So, I mean, if we don't play Coral, we gamble on him having a bronze card that sticks to the back row.
That might even be amusing.
Okay, so now it was good that we played the Coral first. And of course we play around Igni and play the potion. Let's see what happens. And as you can see, it's really about the carryover, right? The carryover is so much stats, and if we have carryover in round 3 and he doesn't, then we basically win. Okay, so it's actually getting close because he didn't play his maidens. Again, as you can see, right, maidens are just insane. I mean, you should, if you play Skellige, just add them in any deck. Any deck you play, add the shield maidens, because they're just insane. Okay, and we won. Very close by 1 point, but yeah, it was somehow expected, right? We had a very good play with Ragnarok, and he had a very good play with the shield maidens. So yeah, that was it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. If you liked the video, just like the video, and if you want more content, subscribe. And what's left to say is have a nice day, and bye.